if that woman, Bertha Russell, pimped out her child, count your days, Bertha. If you're new here, my name is Ashley and this is My Sweet Perspective, where I give my take on all things TV and movie related. If it's on, I'm watching it, okay, or I'm about to watch it. If that's up your alley and you want to stay informed, go ahead, subscribe, go ahead, follow, do all the things, honey. But let's get into it. And I'm going to do this review a little bit differently because I didn't review this season 2 of The Gilded Age, episode by episode. So we are going to do an overall review, but I'm going to go character by character and talk about everything that happened to them during this season. And let's just see how it works out. I mean, no time like the dadgum present, okay, to try something new and different, okay? Now, I want to preface this off by saying I fell in love the first season of The Gilded Age. Honestly, anything Julian Fellowes is a part of, honey, that he's done, I've absolutely loved, okay? Maybe except the second season of Belgravia, but we'll do that in another video. And so this has been no exception. First season I loved, but I will say that season 2 started off very slow for me, but nevertheless, I persisted, okay, and I binged it over the weekend. So why not give y'all a full in-depth video, okay? Let's get right into it. Overall, a lot of cool things we got to see this season. A lot of new characters, a lot of new places to go, but kind of one overarching theme, of course, and that is Bertha wanting to be accepted into society. That thing that's always pervasive, honestly, in all of these period pieces, is the idea that one must be acceptable, and must be looked upon properly. An image is so important, right? And a lot of the superficial things, societal acceptance, the aristocracy that, you know, they kind of carried over from Europe. So those are the kind of themes we're looking at. And of course, which I always love, the juxtaposition of the household staff and those that they work for. I'll forever be a fan of that mechanism used in storytelling, especially in a period piece. But let's get into it character by character. Let's start out with Miss Marian Brooke, honey. Now, Marian has been unlucky in love, okay? But I'm hoping, okay, the way it looked at the end, that she and Mr. Lil Larry Russell, okay, that's a thing, because they've been their best friends. Like they said at the end, we've been through everything together, okay? You know all my secrets and I know all of yours. So basically what happens with her with this season, we know that she was kind of jilted last season, the lawyer guy. And so this season, she's really finding her footing in the city. She is teaching at the school, art, and eventually throughout the season gets asked to take on more foundational curriculum, right? Like reading, writing, arithmetic, all of those things. Meanwhile, enter Aunt Frances's nephew, Dashiell, who comes in, who's when widowed, has a daughter, and immediately Marian falls in love with the little girl, right? And Dashiell, because of that, seemingly falls in love with her, okay? So throughout the season, we kind of see his affections made known, but also understanding that he still hasn't fully grieved the loss of his wife. And so his heart isn't really truly open to love Marian, but he believes it is. So at the opening of the botanical gardens this season, he invites everyone there, honey. And she's like, I got to teach that night. And they're like, no, go. He's like, you must be there. One of the teachers at the school is like, no, Marian, go. And so in front of everybody, honey, he proposes, and she reluctantly accepts. And I think that's because that's what everyone expects of her, and that's what everyone wants her to do, okay? As the season progresses, we see her and Miss Scott kind of banter back and forth. And really this season, Miss Marian is on the up and up. She's not doing anything crazy. She's standing by Aunt Ada. She's really there filling in the gaps and doing what needs to be done. So eventually, you know, they're having dinner, and he calls Marian by his his widowed, his wife, his deceased wife's name in front of everyone. And that was the moment Marian knew. And so Marian eventually has to break it off with him. And she's like, you don't love me. You just love my doggy style. She said that. But we know the truth. He didn't really love her and she didn't really love him. And she's like, I'm not going to subject either one of us to this. And surprisingly enough, Aunt Frances was fine with it. And because we know how Aunt Frances can do. Okay. And so that was pretty much Marian. Now, Miss Peggy Scott. The first episode is really sad. We find out what happened to her son. We find out that he was taken with the flu. We meet the family, or at least the husband who had taken the baby. And we kind of have to reconcile that with her dad, who lied to not only her, but to her mom. And so he's in the doghouse most of this season. But her career is taking off. But because of the friction in the house, she goes back to work for Aunt Frances, okay? And so she's doing her secretarial duties. She's still writing, and she's getting along famously with the editor. Problematic. The editor is a whole married man, okay? And I ain't like that. But anyway, they get the opportunity to go down to Alabama, to Tuskegee University, for the opening of their dormitory and all of the great things that they're doing in the South. Now, her mother, played by the Audra McDonald, okay, not to let's be serious, okay? She is like, no, you're not going to, you don't know what the South is. Don't look at these people in their face. Always be with a group, never be alone, never talk back, never, just all of these precautions. And Miss Scott, never having experienced the South, having the privilege of being born in the North to a family who was really affluent for the time, right? Didn't have to contend with that. And so when she goes down there, initially the first couple days, she's like, oh, it's not what they said. The white folks are acknowledging the black folks. And, they're like, we worked for this. You know what I mean? The guy who was running the program was a slave, as well as the editor that she works with had been a slave. But alas, they're down here to get this story. Well, a couple days into the trip, honey, they go to get something to eat. And the woman who has the cookhouse or the restaurant is serving everybody, being professional. And these two men come in there demanding more than some fried chicken, okay? More than a biscuit, more than some greens, okay? And got really belligerent, really disrespectful. And I guess the editor said, I can't do this. I can't step and fetch it. Right? Like, that's not me. That's not what's going to happen. And so he busts a move in the place. And so now they've got to run to get out, to not get lynched. Because we know what it was, especially in Alabama. So they go hiding in the barn. And I also wondered about this, the collateral damage of them leaving, and the people knowing who brought them there. What was the aftermath of his action, his impertinent action? And it wasn't wrong. But I wonder if he considered that. I wonder if he considered his wife. I wonder if he considered Miss Peggy Scott. I wonder if he considered those, who were there. So anyway, they are hiding in the rafters and basically talking to that fact. And she's like, you can't be anyone but you. And he says to her, you can't be anyone but you. And so I don't know why this seems to be the thing in every movie. If this is a standard trope or a style of writing, but why every time people are in these crazy situations, it's their time to feel like they want to get Bucky naked. Now, while they didn't get Bucky naked, they did share a kiss, and Miss Scott knows he's a married man. Close your legs to married men, Miss Scott. Anyway, they get out of it. They make it back home. And, ultimately she decides that she can no longer work there. Now, do I think that this storyline is done? Nope. I don't. I don't. But a good piece of work they do once they get back to the city is fight to keep the black schools open, because that's another kind of subplot within the story, is that the city is trying to shut down the 3 black schools there. And so they go on this campaign. They get the Irish involved, you know, which is a neat effort. And they get to keep 2 of the 3 schools open, but 1 does end up closing. But yeah, I'm hopeful for her. She helps the young man with the clock invention, you know, just being a queen. You know what I mean? Just being a queen. Next, let's talk about Aunt Agnes Van Ryn, honey. Aunt Agnes is Aunt Agnes is Aunt Agnes. Now, we see her, she never really has an entire storyline of her own. It's all her character is always responding. She's like a reactionary character in most of the scenes that we've seen thus far in these past 2 seasons. And so we find her reacting to a lot of things. The first of which is Aunt Ada finally making her way to be a wife. Okay. And Aunt Agnes is just obstinate and mean, honey. Just no, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't do it. Which is terrible. And I hate the bitterness that's in Aunt Agnes, but I also understood it when she talked about, you know, she's all I have. If she leaves, I'll be alone. Like, Oscar's cool, Marian's cool, but that's my sister. That's who I've shared my entire life with. And if she goes, what happens then? You know what I'm saying? I also think Aunt Agnes is going to be in for a surprise with what we saw at the end with Aunt Ada, and I'll get into that when I get to her character. But also we saw the Van Ryn fortune flee abruptly because Oscar got played. You can't hustle a hustler, Oscar. And I don't feel bad for Oscar, because Oscar needs to get like oh boy and figure out a way to live without bringing any other people into it. But baby, he got played. He got played. You got busted. And so anyway, in turn, and who gambles it all? You know what I'm saying? And so when Auntie Agnes finds out that the Van Ryn money is gone and she gonna have to sell the place, get rid of the help, and do everything, it's a crisis. Okay, I just want to say that. Now Aunt Ada. Aunt Ada got her groove back. Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Do you hear me? I honestly loved this season for her. I loved and hated it. I hate the tragedy of it all, in that, you know, she finds the love of her life who truly loved her just as she was, a whirlwind romance. They get married and then he's diagnosed with cancer and dies. Be serious. And we know Aunt Ada is the loving, carefree, care for everybody, support everybody's dream, is the model of temperance and cool heads prevail and kindness, right? Because we know that Marian is only there because of Aunt Ada. If Aunt Ada wouldn't have sent the ticket, honey, Miss Brooke would have been figuring it out for herself. So I really hated to see that, but I loved the whole little thing at the end where her deceased husband comes through, honey. Pastor came through for her and the Van Ryns. And so now they don't have to lose anything. The household can be maintained and kept, honey. But now Aunt Ada's in control. And I'm here for it. I am utterly here for it. Next, let's get to Bertha Russell. Miss Russell ain't shh, okay? Because if she pimped out that child to the Duke or the Lord or whoever he is, I'm pissed off about it. All about him coming to be in her box at the Met. Okay. So anyway, again, throughout this entire season, we still see her vying, but now it's all about the opera. Okay. And it's not really about the opera because we know she ain't really like a huge opera fan. It's about the prestige, right? It's about the officially being accepted. And if you won't accept me, honey, I'm going to make you upset me because I'm going to build the house. If you don't let me in the house, I'm going to build the house. Okay. And so that's what we did. We saw the battle between old money, new money, which is a constant theme through this. And I mean, Miss Bertha won, but at what cost? At what cost did you win, sis? At what cost did you win? Mr. George Russell. Now, Mr. Russell fine, y'all. And Lil Larry Russell fine too. I don't know what happened on the women's side, but the men folk on the Russell side are fine. Now, I didn't know though if Mr. Russell was gonna stay on my good side. We know at the end of the day he's gonna ride or die for Bertha. That's just a given, okay? But the idea that he tried to play these union men really ticked me off. And so I'm glad that in the final hour he didn't fire on them. It wasn't a firing squad or a massacre, and that he still does have a heart. Even though he tried to play it off like, oh, I'm just gonna give him 6 months of this, whatever. Bruh, you got a heart. You got a heart, Mr. Russell. You got a heart. And that was basically his thing, basically trying to get his mills running. The unions are finally being organized. And I think this is kind of post-industrial revolution. But we are seeing the growth of workers' rights, right? Because we know up until this point, you could be 12, 13 working in these factories and mills with all sort of unsafe working conditions. And so I liked that this season they shed light on that, in the scabs and the union and people, you know, and how violent it really had the potential to get and how violent it actually was, right? And that he kind of took a stand in his own way to prevent bloodshed. Because if he hadn't been, Mr. Russell would have been on my list. Okay. Next, let's get to Lil Larry. Now, Lil Larry, honey, he was somebody's, well, he had a Stella. He had a Stella this season. A widowed woman, and he came and got her together, and we know Miss Russell wasn't having it. So she quashed that quickly. But now I'm in the hopes that he and Marian are gonna make this thing happen because he's free and available, she's free and available, okay? And so now we know he undertook the bridge. Is it that project for his dad, and finds out that a woman was actually the primary engineer in the construction of the bridge, and he does what he needs to do to shed light on that and really give her flowers, okay, while she had lived. We also see that he wants to partner with the young man in the alarm clock, which is so exciting. Again, the men's side of the Russell family and the daughter, I mean, she's cute and I get it. Okay, Oscar running fast and loose, honey. Fast and loose. He at the little, I won't call it the little bar, but it kind of was. And honey gets beat up, toe up and beat up. He's just wilding out, risky behavior, okay? And so eventually he's like, okay, I'm ready to settle down. I'm sick of all of these things. You know, I'm going to just deny myself. I'm going to find me a woman and be about it. So again, he wants the Russell's daughter, goes and talks to Mr. Russell. Mr. Russell's like, no, my baby's gonna marry who she loves, and it's not you. You're not even right. And so then Oscar meets this other young lady who seems to be innocent as a dove, and he thinks he can just help her with everything. She invites him into her finances because she apparently has money, allegedly. Even goes and talks to one of his cousins and says, is he a good man? You know, I don't want to give my heart away to somebody who doesn't. Anyway, they're fast connecting. He wants to propose to her all the things, goes and finds out about this business deal that she's in the midst of, invests money, baby, and that's how the Van Ryns lose the money, on a bad business deal. Child, he weepy because, you know, he got to deal with his crazy mama and the money being gone and the fact that he used all of it. I don't know what's going to happen with Oscar going forward. I don't know if he's going to give up this thing about finding a woman or what, but we shall see. Jack Treacher, that is the young man who works, I don't know if he's a footman. Yeah, he is a footman, but he has the invention for the alarm clock. And so everyone kind of bands together, gives money so he can get his patent. He gets into a watchmaking society, and now the young Mr. Russell wants to partner with him in business. Y'all, I'm so excited about that. That's all. Oh, child, Miss Turner, the maid, comes back as Miss Winterbourne, honey. And when I tell you the people were gagged, oh, I was gagged, and it gave, y'all. If you didn't watch the season, watch season 2. If you're still here, thanks for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, y'all. And I will see you in the next video.